sick of this shit too. I went to the grocery store, y'all, and spent $100.21. I'm about to show y'all what I got. Okay, this is what I got. Now, somebody would think that this is a lot. Y'all, I got seasonings, some protein chips, some Kaiser brownies for baby, those flowers that was only $10, the chicken salad, 2 synergies, a coconut water, some hard cooked peeled eggs, yogurt, some fruit, Gouda cheese, 2 of these, and some peanuts. Y'all, this is what $100 will get you in the grocery store these days. That is sad.
I mean, I got a serious question. How are y'all affording groceries right now? So everybody just doing good? Y'all just can afford whatever y'all want at the store? Like everybody just got food stamps? That's how it go? I ain't doing good. I'm struggling in that, man. What the heck? I just went to Save a Lot and didn't save a damn. They need to change the name of that store from Save a Lot to Save a Damn. I hate that store. I mean, I got a serious question.
Shalom. First and foremost, giving all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh by Hashem Yahushai, by Hashem Rakah Kadash. Double honors to the apostles, elders, and bishops of the great millstone who do rule and teach well. Peace and blessing salutations, Yahweh by Hashem Yahushai Barakatham, to the sincere believers, Akim and Akwath out there listening and learning, keeping the faith and diligence of our Lord Yahushai. So back with another quick hit. And as you saw in those 2 opening clips, the squeeze is on. You know, people are out here hurt, you know, by these prices in these markets. You know, people are losing jobs, losing hope, losing their morale. And the thing about it is, this is only the beginning. You know, people ain't seen that yet. Like, you think it's bad now, just wait a few months until these tariffs really kick in, until these supply chains really break down to a point where you're going to be seeing shelves empty. I mean, you already seeing it now. I was in the market the other day and I saw some empty shelves in there, all right? And people was kind of looking like, you know, I wonder what's going on with that. But see, these people have no idea what the situation they're about to find themselves in soon come, all right? And when these tariffs do kick in their full measure, people are going to be scrambling for resources, ultimately because these Americans, by and large, they're not prepared for what's to come, spiritually or carnally for that matter. See, so when the ish really hit the fan, it's going to be real bad out here for those that are not in Yahweh Bashim Yahushai. But yeah, the second dude, you know, he mentioned food stamps. You know, food stamps, all that's about to go too. He's so about to cut everything. You know, May 5th, they resuming student loan payments, you know what I'm saying? So you're going to have to start paying them student loans back. And right now, people ain't got the money to afford it, you see? So the squeeze is on from every angle. I mean, hours are getting cut, you know? More layoffs are coming. The price of food is going up. All right, that's why right here in this article it says growing number of Americans are financing groceries with buy now and pay later loans. You see that? So you know that you're in a tough position when you have to basically put groceries on layaway. All right, nobody, especially in America, should be putting groceries on layaway, but this speaks to the times that we're in. Things are difficult, things are hard. All right, and it shows you as well that we're already in a recession. Really, we've been in a recession for some years now, but we're actually coming into a point of a Great Depression 2.0. And this time it's going to be worse than the first one because at least in the first one, people by and large, they knew how to do things. You know, people knew how to farm and live off the earth. And you know, back then it was a different time. All right, now people are all dependent on technology. You know, pretty much people depend on the grocery stores to eat. You know, people don't know how to have a garden, how to raise animals and things like that. So this one's going to be worse. You see, and this time as well, The government not going to be giving you no handouts. Or if they do, all right, I should say this, or if they do, it's really going to be a snare to get you to take the MOTB, which is really what it's all leading to anyway. All right, because this is all a part of that Hegelian dialectic. Real quick, let's go to Revelation. All right, chapter 6. Revelation chapter 6. Because the scriptures speak about, people having to pay a crazy amount of money for food. Well, that's it's like here. Revelation 6 and verse 6. And I heard a voice in the midst of the four beasts say, a measure of wheat for a penny, and 3 measures of barley for a penny, and see thou hurt not the oil and the wine. All right. So we're in a time where people are having to give a large amount of money for a small amount of food. You saw Eve in the first clip. She had, so much groceries to where she could fit on one side of her counter, which is nothing. All right. That's maybe 2 or 3 days worth of food right there, And I'll give her, I'll commend her, At least she wasn't buying a whole bunch of BS, what I'm saying? At least she was trying to eat somewhat healthy, but the more healthy you want to eat, the more expensive that things are. And, the little amount of food that she had was over $100, which is ridiculous. If this was pre-pandemic, what she had on that counter may have ran her $30 to $40 max, but we're in a time of rampant inflation, and pretty much, the price of things are going up every single month, and it's about to get even worse now because of these tariffs. You know what I'm saying? So, that's why the scriptures say that, hey, a measure of wheat for a penny. Okay, which when you go into that word penny there, it goes into a day's wages. All right, so you're going to be given a day's wages to get a very small amount of food. All right, and 3 measures of barley for a penny. Right, now when you go into that, let's go into that real quick. For the word for a penny, Strong's G1220. Let's hear Esau say it.
Strong's G 1220. Denarion. Denarion.
Denarion, okay, in the Greek. And when you go into the usage, it's like, okay, you go into the usage of it, right? Denarius, okay, which is, the that was pretty much like the dollar of the Roman Empire, right? A Roman silver coin in New Testament time. It took its name from it being equal to 10 asses, a number after 217 BC increased to 16. It was the principal silver coin of the Roman Empire. From the parable of the laborers in the vineyard, it was seen that a denarius was then the ordinary pay for a day's wages. You see that? So a penny here going into a day's wages, all right? So however much you make a day, $150, $200, $250, however much you make a day, you're going to be given that to get a very, small amount of food. There's barely enough to last you for a week, So this is where we at. And yeah, like I said, man, people out here hurting. So getting into this article, as inflation continues to strain household budgets, a growing number of Americans are resorting to buy now, pay later services to cover grocery costs, according to multiple reports. This trend highlights the financial pressures many face amid rising food prices and economic uncertainty. And this is all a part of that Hegelian dialectic, to really put that squeeze on the people, pressure from above and pressure from beneath, to get these people to bend to the will of the elites, which is ultimately to sell your soul and take the MOTB. All right. Now we know that Esau, all right, he's the serpent. Okay, so what does a serpent do? All right, he either constricts or he bites his victim and injects venom into them. All right. Now in this term, in this scenario, we're dealing with a squeeze, right? So that's known as constriction. This is what serpents do when they want to. Let's get into it. Constriction is a method used by several snake species to kill or subdue their prey. You see that? When you go into that word subdue right there, it goes into conquer, to curb, to overcome, quieten, or bring under control a feeling or person. You see that? So Esau, with these higher prices, with taking the jobs away, with stopping global trade, he's looking to subdue his prey, which who is the prey? All right. The real prey is really you Israelites, you so-called blacks, Latinos, and Native Americans. But the goyim, or useless eaters, as they would say, are the prey. Okay, which is pretty much anyone that is not of the elites. All right. Although some species of venomous and mildly venomous snakes do use constriction to subdue their prey, most snakes which use constriction lack venom. The snake strikes at its prey and holds on, pulling the prey into its coils, or in the case of very large prey, pulling itself onto the prey. And this is what Esau has done. Okay, Esau has put himself onto the prey because you've pretty much given this man permission to control all aspects of your life. Okay, and you know, the fact that people have given this man control to all aspects of their life, now he has the power to destroy you in whatever way that he wants to. All right. So that's how the serpent gets down. The snake then wraps one or two loops around the prey, forming a constriction coil. The snake monitors the prey's heartbeat to discern it is dead. All right. And right now, you know, Esau, he's checking the temperature, if you will, of the people through these social media, you know what I'm saying, through these, you know, spies and agents that he got out here. And based on the information that he's getting, which the information that he's getting is coming out in these articles, okay? The fact that he's gotten people to this point, now he knows that the end is near. All right, now he knows that he's pretty much gotten the people to a point where they really are going to seek to Esau for a solution to all this. And that solution is going to come in the form of universal basic income, in which you'll receive $1,000, $2,000 a month. You know what I'm saying? If you get down with this man's beast system. All right. So this is all a part of that squeeze, that constriction that the serpent is putting on. Let's continue with this article. Right. Amid a recent article by CNBC notes that BNPL services traditionally used for discretionary purchases like electronics or clothing are increasingly being used for necessities like groceries. And that shows you that people, they ain't worried about clothes and electronics no more. All right. Because you can't eat that. All right. People are now using BNPL, which was once used, like if you wanted to buy like a laptop or a new TV, people would put it on layaway and they pay for it over time. You know, now the fact that people are doing this for groceries now, it means that this economy is pretty much done. You know, people don't have any extra money on hand to just buy things outright. Shit, people can't even save to buy the things that they really want no more, because every time you turn around, it's like another bill coming in, you know, or your car break down, or you ain't getting the same money because your job is now cutting the hours because of everything that's going on in the world. So, you know, we're living in a time where, you know, the scriptures say that the fashion of this world passes away. You know, companies such as Affirm, Klarna, and Afterpay have seen a spike in users opting for short-term loans to manage weekly food shopping. And this is really predatory at the end of the day, because if, let's say that you go to the market and you spend $400 on food and you put it on Affirm or Afterpay, right? And you break it down, you might pay, you know, $40 every 2 weeks, something affordable that people can manage, right? Well, all you're doing is giving yourself another bill. All you're doing is putting yourself into more debt, all right? And that's really going to make sure that you can't save anything, because every time you turn around, it's going to be another bill. You know, it's going to be more money coming out your paycheck, all right? So you'll pay for 1 week for groceries, and the next week you got to do the same thing, and you repeat the cycle until you get into more debt to where you can't come out of it, man. All right, so these devils, you know what they're doing. Right, this is very predatory right here. But again, people feel as though they have no choice but to use these things because the economy is so bad, you know. So you get the point with that right now. the scriptures say in Matthew chapter 4, right? Because, this is our mindset, right? Because just as Yahushua was tempted by Hashatan, all right, we're also being tempted in this time. We're coming into the hour of temptation to where our faith is going to be tried and tested, to where, we're going to lose things, and the Lord is about to shake things up, and this is all to try our faith, man, so that we come out, on the other side as pure, refined gold, you know what I'm saying? Which for these people of this world, this is really for their judgment, you know? So this is the temptation of Yahweh Shai, Matthew 4 and so like in Matthew chapter 4 and verse 1, then Yahweh Shai led up of the spirit into the wilderness to be tempted. Then was Yahweh Shai led up of the spirit into the wilderness to be tempted of the devil. And when he had fasted 40 days and 40 nights, he was afterward and hungered. And when the tempter came to him, he said, if thou be the Son of the Most High, command that these stones be made bread. All right, so you see there that Satan was pretty much trying to get Yahweh Shai to go off, okay, to, pretty much get him to, go against the Lord, man. All right, so this is what Esau is doing, man, because what Esau, he comes in the power of Satan, man. All right, this is the man of sin that we're dealing with. This is the devil. All right, so all he's about is getting us to go off so that he can keep us in sin and continue to destroy us as a people. So Yahweh Shai is being tempted here, right? So, Satan said, command that these stones be made bread. And verse 4 said, but he answered and said, it is written, man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceedeth out of the mouth of Yahweh. You see that? So Yahweh Shai said, look, man shall not live by bread alone, meaning that what? All right. We subsist on spiritual food, man. All right. Yeah, physical bread is essential to maintain the flesh. But at the end of the day, the scriptures say that the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. So ultimately, this flesh is going to get weak, man. And that's why we practice fasting now. Okay. That's why we get ourselves used to not eating, for a few days, man. So that when the inevitable does come, even though the scriptures do say that, my servant shall eat, so the Lord is going to feed us, you know what I'm saying? But hey, you never know. A brother might not have, food to eat for, a few days or whatever the case may be, But that's why Yahweh shall say that man shall not live by bread alone, you know what I'm saying? So we understand that it's really Yahweh Bashim Shah that sustains us through it all, man. The Lord gives us daily bread. Isn't that in the Lord's Prayer? Give us this day our daily bread, right? So the Lord is the one that gives us, health to go out and do what we got to do so that we can get our daily bread. And it's not for us to be worried about what's going to happen, how we going to eat next week and, a month, 2 months from now. No, we ain't got to worry about that. The people of this world worry about that because they're concerned with the cares of this life. But at the end of the day, we have a greater hope and we understand that our power is going to take care of us, man, in a time of affliction as he already is. So what do we have to worry about? All right, the Most High feeds the beasts, The scriptures say, are we not greater than them? Tomorrow handle itself. Let's get that. Tomorrow, if that's feed the beast. Oh man, how does it go? Yep. It's like in Matthew 6. Yeah, Matthew 6 and yeah, that's the spirit. Matthew 6 and 25. Therefore I say unto you, take no thought for your life, what ye shall eat, or what ye shall drink, nor yet for your body, what ye shall put on. Is not the life more than meat, and the body than raiment? Yeah, and that directly goes into what Yahushua said in Matthew, the 4th chapter. that man shall not live by bread alone, right? So we don't have to worry about how we gonna eat and what we gonna wear and this, and that. The Lord provides all things, but if you believe and trust in that, then the Lord is going, make a way for you through whatever. You know, is not life more than meat, and the body than raiment? Behold, the fowls of the air, for they sow not, neither do they reap, nor gather into barns, yet your heavenly Father feedeth them. Are ye not much better than they? See? So the Lord take care of the beasts of the field. They don't sow, they don't reap, but the Lord feed them. All right. So how much more for the faithful if we trust in the Lord? All right. But see, these people out here, when worst come to worst, what are they going to do? They all going to crash out. All right. Because they don't have faith in anything, beyond the carnality of this world. All right. So we have a greater hope, man. That's the point. Then when you go here, right? Let's check out Dabu real quick.
What's up, guys? Dabu7 back at you. I'm going to talk about this whole shipping crisis and trade war crisis that's unfolding, and it's about to hit a whole nother level, and people just don't see it coming. This whole thing between China and the United States, it went into effect on April 10th. And it takes roughly 30 days to get across that ocean to get things from China to the ports in LA. It takes roughly 45 to go down and around through the Panama and up to get to Houston. And then it takes...
So considering that everything we get, pretty much 95 to 97% of all goods that we import are from China. China is pretty much the factory of the world. And the point that Dabu was making is that it takes a long time for these goods to get here, right? So the slowdown I went into in a lesson the other day, the slowdown of global trade has already begun. So ships are already ceasing to travel to America. So if it take 30 days, what he said, to get, through the Panama Canal, or 40 something days. Look, it takes a long time for these goods and supplies to get here. So even in a scenario where, let's just say, Trump was to be like, you know what, I'm going to cut all these tariffs and we're not going to do this no more. Right. Well, guess what? It would still take about a month or more just to get the supply chain back up and running at an optimal level. See, the reason why you've had so many years to where America hasn't been in a state of lack is because the trade was steady coming. You understand? But when the trade stops, the whole, global supply chain stops. You know what I'm saying? But America is going to suffer because we don't produce anything here, really. You know what I'm saying? All the things that we can afford at a decent price come from overseas. If you really want to buy American-made products, you notice that it's more expensive because you have to consider costs like labor and, the fact that cost of living is higher in America. Businesses are trying to make a profit, whereas you can make products for pennies on the dollar over in China, and then they import it here and upsell it for, 200% of the original price, 200 to 400% of the original price. That's how they make their profit, So, say goodbye to the days of affordability. Say goodbye to, look, reports have already came out that most people have depleted their savings accounts. All right. People are taking out their 401k because the stock market is in such, fluctuation. It's like, so people are losing money on their 401k, so they just taking it out. So people are, again, in a very tight position. They being squeezed.
55 to get all the way out and around over to New York City. With that said, we've already witnessed the United States during this time, since April 10th, they've yanked shipments going to China. We've even had bulk carriers that were on the water heading toward China change their port call to Japan. So what this means is people are in for a rude awakening. And this is about to crush our trucking industry by design once again.
Yeah. You know, once them truckers stop moving, everything stop moving. Okay, because the truckers are the one that are responsible for moving the products from the ports to the warehouse to, you know, to these grocery markets, to these farms and things like that. If you ain't got no truckers, then guess what? This whole supply chain is going to break down. Everything is going to stop. All right. So truckers are very important to a supply chain, man. But once they stop running, you know, again, everything comes to a halt. You see? So, hey, man, as Dabu said, you know, these Babylonians are about to be in for a rude awakening.
Mom and pop shops are going to get wiped out. All the small time businesses, this is designed to wipe them out. If you haven't noticed, and a shout out to all my trucker guys out there and gals that are on the road that keep me posted with information, they're telling me they've never seen so many illegal migrants or migrants. They can barely speak English driving our trucks. They've never seen as many. There's wrecks all over the place, constantly left and right. I was just watching one this morning, same thing. They were trying to get information and the guys barely spoke any English. So what's about to happen is when the ports dry up, because nothing's coming from China, this means the people that work the docks that unload things are not going to be needed. They're going to get laid off. This means the people in the warehouses that stack the stuff and pick the stuff and get it ready to ship through truck, they're not going to be needed because there's not going to be nothing coming in. Again, people are not going to start to see the full-fledged effects until around May 10th and beyond, when things stop coming in. Right? In the meantime, people are just sitting there waiting to get blindsided because this is in motion. It's already happening, and we're seeing the effects already in other countries. And like I said, our own shipments to China are already getting diverted to other places.
So you heard what he said? He said the effects of these global supply chains are already being seen in other countries, man. So other countries are already experiencing these food shortages. So as we've been telling you, it's only a matter of time before it hits America. All right. So, hey, again, these Americans are in for a rude awakening, man. All right. The Most High is visiting Babylon the Great. You see? Let's get that scripture, right? Because the Lord, man, unwalled villages. That's in Jeremiah. Unwalled villages. Ezekiel 38, okay. Ezekiel 38 and 10, it says, "Thus saith the Lord Yahweh, it shall also come to pass that at the same time shall things come into thy mind, and thou shalt think an evil thought, and thou shalt say, I will go up to the land of unwalled villages, which is America. I will go to them that are at rest, that dwell safely, all of them dwelling without walls, and having neither bars nor gates, to take a spoil, and to take a prey, and to turn thine hand upon the desolate places that are now inhabited, and upon the people that are gathered out of the nations which have gotten cattle and goods that dwell in the midst of the land." All right. So, hey, the scriptures is cold, man. You know, Yahweh Bashmi Shai is coming to the land of unwalled villages, America, Babylon the Great. Okay, where what? These people are at rest, you know what I'm saying? People are comfortable. You know, they settle on their leaves, going to these sporting events and you know, enjoying all this entertainment, eating good, drinking good, right? They dwell safely. All of them dwelling without walls and having neither bars nor gates. You know what I'm saying? The Lord is coming to penetrate this place in the worst way possible, man. All right. And the Lord is going to penetrate America with famine, with great death, with pestilence. You know what I'm saying? Natural disasters. Okay. These are the judgments of the Lord that's coming down. All right. This is what Dabu is going into, man.
Large scale, huge shipments. Expect the same. It's already happening. They're going to divert. It's not going to come into America. They're not going to pay this 140% tariff that Trump has put on them. And until they can get something worked out, which may be a long time from now and maybe never, this is what's going on. So if something huge doesn't change to redirect all this, this is what we're facing. It's going to be a crisis in terms of a lack of things that are just not in stock. It's going to be people getting put out of jobs in terms of trucking, in the warehouses, and everything else. And I'm telling you, this is just a continuation of destroying America. People that voted for Trump are never going to see it. They're never going to admit it. But that's what this is doing. This is hurting people left and right. People that are here have been hit hard already. I know farmers personally. I know people that deal with bees. I've reported on people that deal with chickens and everything else that are getting hammered because they can't get the stuff that they need at the price they were getting it at before. So I feel this is only going to continue. And from what I'm hearing and what I'm seeing, without a doubt, the hourglass has been flipped. So prepare, a crisis is in motion. I would stock up on some goods, critical items, especially anything that's coming out of Asia, out of China. I would definitely be stocking up on goods. And remember what I said about this hitting the trucking industry and the ports and all that. You just watch. Here now, within the next few weeks, all this is going to start to become rather obvious. And it's going to be too late then. It's going to be too late to try to get your hands on any supplies that are not around anymore. Or at least for the meantime, or that are hard to get. I just have a plan for it instead of getting blindsided by it. Join me on the live streams going live Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 9 p.m. Eastern, right here on W77.
Yeah, then on top of that, these devils are going to crash the grid, they're going to crash the grid. It's going to be a, power blackout, People are not going to have access to get their money out these banks. So at that point, with the, not having access to money, the money's going to be worthless at that point, and also having no food. You can have all the money that you want to have. I mean, if you can't buy food to sustain yourself, then what good is it? You see? So, hey, man, this is why you don't mess around with Yahweh Bashmi Shai, because when it's all said and done, the Lord is going to get the glory, and all those who bucked up against Yahweh Bashmi Shai are all going to be, sorely confounded and punished. All right, we'll close out here in Isaiah 24. Judgment on the earth. There's Isaiah 24:1. Behold, the Lord maketh the earth empty, and maketh it waste, and turneth it upside down, and scattereth abroad the inhabitants thereof. And let's go down to verse 3. The land shall be utterly emptied and utterly spoiled, for the Lord has spoken this word. The earth mourneth and fadeth away, the world languisheth and fadeth away, the haughty people of the earth do languish. All right, if you go into haughty, it goes into basically the pride, how proud these people are, and they were waxed proud because they were able to enjoy the dainties of Babylon the Great. They were able to increase themselves in their wickedness, and they didn't think about the Lord. See, they didn't think about the price that they would have to pay for their actions, man. See, but now the Lord is addressing them, and now they have no answer for it. All they have is sorrow. Okay, you have people that have worked for, the American government for 20 plus years, and now they get laid off. You know what I'm saying? All that work that you put in for a failing system, and you ain't got nothing to show for it. You see? Which is why we understand in this truth that the best thing that you can do, the best thing that you can invest in is the kingdom of heaven. All right? The best thing that you can do, the most wise thing that you can do is to repent and return to Yahweh Bashmi Shai while the evil days come not, so that when the evil days do come, you'll have this wisdom, knowledge, and understanding to sustain you, and the Lord will also be with you in those times, man, to make a way for you. All right, but these people, they're not going to have that, because why? They've trusted in vanity. Their pride has deceived them. All right, this is why now they're languishing and fading away, right? Verse 5, the earth also is defiled under the inhabitants thereof, because they have transgressed the laws, changed the ordinance, broken the everlasting covenant. Therefore hath the curse devoured the earth, and they that dwell therein are desolate. Therefore the inhabitants of the earth are burned, and few men left. The new wine mourneth, the vine languisheth, all the merry-hearted do sigh. All right, so all the partying, all the mirth and the folly of this land, man, everything is being turned to mourning. Okay, why? Because Proverbs 29 say, when the wicked beareth rule, the people mourn. All right, which the wicked is Esau, the so-called white man. All right. He's the reason why everyone is going through a hard time right now, because he's making it that way. You know, if Esau was to, in theory, just leave people alone and just let people live, man, then people will be in a much better situation. But at the end of the day, these people must pay for their wickedness. All right. And it says in Psalms that the wicked, which is Esau, is the sword of the Most High. So the Lord is using his sword, his rod of correction, to punish these people. All right. So that's why the Lord got Esau set up, man, to be a whipping stick. You see, the mirth of tabrets ceases. All the music, the clubs. You know what I'm saying? I seen an article the other day that said a lot of clubs are going out of business, man, because people ain't coming through like that. Women are complaining. We don't see men inside the clubs no more. Like, what's going on? Not only is the music trash, but we just live in a very demonic atmosphere, you know what I'm saying? And people just don't have the money no more to be able to go out and, spend all this extra money, you know what I'm saying? So everything is breaking down. The noise of them that rejoice endeth, the joy of the harp cease. Verse 10, the city of confusion is broken down, which is America, Babylon the Great. All right, Babal means confusion. Every house is shut up, that no man may come in. See? There is a crying for wine in the streets. All joy is darkened. The mirth of the land is gone. And the city is left desolation, and the gate is smitten with destruction. So, this is what is coming upon this wicked-ass land of Babylon the Great, man. See, this place is under great judgment. And very soon, everyone is going to know that Yahweh Basham Shah ruleth in the kingdom of men and has his way. All right, so with that, I'm going to go ahead and end it right there. Lord willing, this letter is edifying through the Rakah Kadash. Call Allah Yahweh Bashmil Shah Bashim Rakah Kadash. And until next time, Lord willing, shalom to the elect. Call me Yasha Allah. Wa Shalom.